by knowing their context, their roots, their upbringing. So we know that we're under a withering attack of wokeism. It means us great harm. And it's important for us to know it perfectly or know it well. And so the second part of today's lectures, oh, is that running more key? Yeah, all right, thanks. The second part of, I should have asked Mia, is that going on? So the second part of today's lectures are to introduce what are the roots of wokeism. And finally, at the end of these lectures, I'm going to discuss what is called a counter-proposal, how each and every one of us can start to become the kind of the death knell, the X-Men, you know, that are, you know, isn't there some X-Man who's like really fast, you think he's in front of you, then he's behind you, then he's on the roof, then he's blue colored, he speaks with a German accent. Do you know who I'm talking about? He's an X-Men. Nobody knows who I'm talking about? You know who the X-Men are? Yeah, right? You know who they are, right? Nobody knows that super fast blue guy?
Obsessive, also.
Okay, anyway, so all of us can be, like, it isn't like counter-proposal, oh, that's how they are going to feel, or that's the secret to how it's fixed. It's embodiable. Each person in this room, in your unique place in society, your unique style of how you are as an individual, every one of us is a weapon against something that means harm to our nation, to our friends, to the families we love, to our nieces and nephews and so forth. So that's what I'm going to cover this afternoon. The roots of wokeism are the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution. All right, let's take a look. Okay, the context in which these types of ideologies arise is the following. Every one of us, by being human, has an interior sense of how things should be. That's just in us. It's just in us. We want things to be ideal. If we were to walk around the corner, go into the shopping center, and you're in the bakery, there's the owner of this facility has a beautiful, very popular bakery. You go in there to get something to bring home for dinner, and there's some little kid that wants one of the cream pastries in the window. And then she's crying, I want the pastry, I want the pastry. And the mom smacks the kid in the head. Wow, shut up. You're bothering me today. You can't stand it. You suddenly feel horrified by what you've just witnessed. Why is that? Where does that come from? Why? What is it about the way the mother responded to that circumstance that makes you literally horrified? To kind of like want to take the kid, like you just see the whole future of this kid's life for 8, 10, 15 years going to be like this with a mom like that. What just happened to you when such a thing happens? What happened to you is that you're human. Every human being has an inherent sense of an ideal, sense of how things should be. It's always around us all the time. You want to come to this seminar, you park your car, and then you're walking toward the door. This looks like a nice place. You walk past the car that's parked almost diagonally across 2 parking spots over the line. It just disturbs you. It's like, how is that? Why? Yeah, guy can't even put his car and park it. It disturbs you. Why? What is it about you that cares whether or not some random Joe put his car taking up 2 parking spots? What disturbed you is that you're a human being. Every single solitary human being ever has an inherent, intrinsic sense of an ideal, sense of how things should be. We all have it. That's what it is. So, on the other hand, there's also something characteristic of human beings that is willing to hopefully none of us here, but has the capacity for selfish interests to do things that are greatly harmful to others. I can make a few $1,000,000. My yacht is getting a little bit old, and maybe I'd like to get a yacht for my 17-year-old daughter, so I'm going to sell poisonous milk powder in Nigeria. What the heck? They're only Africans. I don't care really, but I've had my eye on this yacht. How does anybody get like that? I have ideas, but that's not the point of what there is something about every human being that has a capacity to, out of some self-interest, cause harm, do evil. And this is what's called creating social injustice. People have the capacity to do things that create social injustice. These two things go together very badly. The fact that every single human being has a sense of an ideal, so that even a parked car disturbs me, especially a mom yelling at some poor little innocent kid disturbs me. I have a sense of an ideal. It's always operative. It's always operative. It never goes away. It never goes away. It's actually what makes us eventually arrive at God as a friend. That ideal. And then human beings have the capacity, out of self-interest, to do horrible things. I mean, really horrible things. These create social injustices. And so certain kind of people, probably most of the people here actually, become obsessed or driven to remove these injustices. Somehow that happens. Maybe you had a really great mother or father or both. You were raised well. Or you have, maybe it was a coach, swimming coach, or a football coach, whatever. Who knows? Something happened to you to make you, or maybe we finally woke up during the Biden administration and saw what they're doing to our children. Something woke us up, something wakes us up, and then we become driven or obsessed to get rid of these harmful things that people do to one another. There's a lot of people who somehow, I don't know how, I really don't know how, I think they're called normies. Nothing seems to bother them. Everything's all right with them. There's a lot of that. I think the majority are that. But it doesn't take a lot of people to change everything. It just takes the impassioned ones, the driven ones, the ones who are taken up with a passion to make things better. We can leave the normies to be the normies. Leave them to kind of be worried about, oh, my rental car is going to run out of its 40,000 miles. And, if that's their worries, okay, good luck to you. I hope you solve your rental car problem. But the people who are impassioned, who can't stand the wrong that we see people doing to one another, these are the ones who will die. They're ready to die to make things better. How did they get like that? I don't know, but thank goodness people are like that. President Trump is pretty much like that. He was willing to die. He's getting shot at. He jumps back up. Fight. It's like some people are willing to die to make things better. The classic example from Western civilization, of course, is Jesus Christ. People who want to make things better are willing to die to do so. Now, what if you have a terrible idea and you're willing to die? Like, the way I'm going to make things better is I'm going to shrink wrap each person in this room. That's the way I think, because they're moving around too much. I'll shrink wrap them. That is a very bad idea. But if I think I'm doing good and I'm willing to die for it, the problem we face in the world is not necessarily that people are bad. It's the fact that human beings are willing to die to make things better, and many human beings have very bad ideas about how to go about doing that. And wokeism, and the history of wokeism, the French Revolution was a group of people who wanted to make things better and had a very bad idea about how to do it. Marxists wanted to make things better and had a very bad idea about how to do it. People committed to woke ideology, they want to make things better. Do you think they're going around trying to make things worse? I don't think so. They're willing to die to make things better. It's just that they have a bad idea. And that's why it's important to look at the history of this particular strain of improvers. Hi, I'm here to help you. Oh, really? Which of the two groups are you in before I'm willing to consider you helping me? Because if you're going to help me like the French Enlightenment people is, no, thank you. You know, the guillotine didn't look that great to me. I want to know what you believe about how you're going to improve things. So, okay. So history is a record of a small number of impassioned impassioned about improving human circumstances of two different styles. We're going to look at them because the history of the people who actually did successfully improve things is the group of people in whose line we want to place ourselves in. Is that clear, or the logic is okay? Okay? All right. So what's the problem? What's the problem that disturb woke people? What is the problem? The problem is unequal outcomes. That everything is not exactly the same for every single person that walks on the earth. This is what disturbs them. And that's what they're trying to fix. You work hard, you get an A. The person next to you works, goes out partying before his exam, gets a B. And this is somehow a version of oppression. Not that you worked hard, it's a version of oppression. The thing that disturbs people who are willing to die, who are committed to woke ideas, is that all disparity is evidence of oppression. So the thing that the woke people are fighting to create is equity. Equity, equal outcomes. Equal outcomes. If you have a fellow student, if you have a professor, if you aren't allowed to say that you believe in family or you believe in purity, the person who's oppressing you is somebody who believes that all gradation is oppression, and they're willing to die to remove all difference. Equity is what disturbs woke people. So anything that creates inequity, not equality, equity, equal outcomes, not equal value. Anything that does anything to create unequal outcomes creates the social injustice that I live to stop. The thing that creates social injustice is privilege. It's not something you did. It's something you are. You're born with privilege. You're born in North America. You're not born in Chad, Africa, or you're not born out in the wilderness of somewhere in the Mercosur in Paraguay, poor country. So you're just born here. You're just born here. That's privilege. And by being born here, you participate in systems of privilege. That makes you the problem. Did anybody kind of fill out a form and make an application to become heterosexual? And then, you heard from the government, okay, you were allowed to be a heterosexual. No. No, we didn't do anything to be heterosexual. You just end up heterosexual. That's privilege. You're privileged. You're guilty. And so you are the source of social injustice. And I am willing to die to get rid of you because you're the problem, because somebody's feelings are hurt. Somebody feels disenfranchised. Somebody feels unloved, not included, not belonging. What is it? DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and then they added belonging. You know why they added belonging? Because it makes you even more impossible to fulfill their demands. So you say, it's law in Ohio that all corporations must have at least 7% transgender individuals in executive positions. And so, okay, thanks a lot. You were in my company. Okay, I have 7%. And the government, and then, so you've included them. They've accomplished inclusion. They've accomplished inclusion. But I don't feel that I belong here. People in the corporation don't make me feel like I belong. So they added belonging on the back end of DEI, so that you're guaranteed to fail. Even I hired now, but you didn't create the corporate culture in which they feel like they belong. It's an absolute cudgel, an absolute battering ram, so that you have no voice whatsoever anytime ever. I invited them over for Thanksgiving. Yeah, but did you invite any other trans people to your Thanksgiving? How are they supposed to feel when all your children are married and have children? They didn't feel like they belong. You didn't make them feel like they belong. There's no winning when you establish that the issue is systemic. Systemic. It's nothing you do. It's everything you are. You live here. You live in America. You live on colonized land. There's nothing you can do. And so, let me see. So there's the inherent ideal. There's the evil. So the inherent ideal, which I showed you before, right? Every human being wants something to be ideal. Every human being has a capacity to create social injustice. Certain human beings are impassioned to remove it, and they implement the ideas which they think are going to remove it. Woke people, the inherent ideal is equity. The evil which creates social injustices are privilege and systems of privilege. The way to remove the evils are to eliminate the people who caused them. You didn't cause them by anything you did. You caused them by being born. You caused them by your sexual orientation. So you need to be removed. No matter how much you complain about it, you're the cause of oppression. You're creating victims. We of the woke community need to remove you. We need to take away your money. We need to take away your voice. We need to seize your computer. You can't have you posting a joke about some community that might have their feelings hurt. You need to be removed, canceled, destroyed. And the implementation of these ideas are to create permanent race hatred, remove gender. What an accomplishment. Imagine an ideology that successfully established in the culture the fact that your gender is separated from your biological DNA, your chromosomes. How did we get that far? Open borders because you're a colonial settler. Defund the police and censorship legislation. They're going crazy about censorship legislation. Are you following this? It comes from the terms disinformation and misinformation. Those two terms should be forbidden to be used. They should be censored. Yeah, I can't censor them, right? How much is 173 times 17. Quick. If no matter what answer he gives me, unless he's a genius, he's gonna be wrong. But he's not wrong, it's misinformation, it's disinformation. How about being wrong? How about I got it wrong? Supposing I have a completely racist idea in my head. Supposing I think to myself, most black people aren't, they're just don't have the same average IQ as white people. It's nothing against them. Some of my best friends are black, but they're just not as smart. That's a horrible notion. It's completely false, but it's not misinformation. The person's just wrong. All you gotta do is correct the person. There's no such thing as being wrong in a society. Imagine living in a society where you can't be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, myself. I'm always wrong. Half my ideas are wrong. Please give me the chance to tell me the correct answer. That's all I want. I don't need to be eliminated. So the terms disinformation, misinformation are the implementation of woke ideas. They are what make it impossible for us to begin to build a constructive society. So the historical lineage of wokeism, and I'll be getting through this pretty quick. Enlightenment philosophy of the French Revolution that eventually led to the French Revolution, and Marx and Engels' philosophy of the Russian Revolution, Bolshevik Revolution. Enlightenment philosophy is basically this. Okay, so now you're starting to see, right? You see my paradigm, you see my structure. Inherent ideals, evil creates social justice, remove evil, implement ideas, right? You saw that before on prior slides, right? Okay, inherent ideal for the French. Okay, the circumstances in which the French Revolution occurred was a corrupt clergy and corrupt aristocracy, and people were enslaved as serfs. It was a horrible system. Life was terrible. So the French philosophes want to get rid of that inequality. And so their ideal, which all people have the ideal, was liberté, liberty, égalité, equality, fraternité, fraternity. That's the ideal. Anybody against any of those things? They're nice ideals. And the French Enlightenment philosophers, they're willing to die to get rid of those things. God bless them. Yeah, that's very nice of you. Most people just wanted to drink their wine and eat their baguette. But these guys willing to die to make things better. Unusual people. The problem is they had the wrong idea. And what happens when you have the wrong idea? They ended up, basically, the problem was a corrupt clergy. Okay? Do you know what I mean by clergy? Yeah, priests and stuff like that. The priests were corrupt. So where the people were looking to try to find rescue, salvation, comfort, solace, those very people are like participating with the royalty and stealing and making these people's lives miserable. So how did the French deal with the fact that the religious world had become so corrupt? The very people who are supposed to help you become corrupt and lead to your suffering. How do they deal with them? A French philosopher, perfectly pleasant fellow, no evil intentions, named René Descartes. You'll read about him in the book. René Descartes. He was trying to figure out what was the problem with Christendom or Christianity. And so he starts doubting everything. How do I know you're really here and not a dream? How do I know when I feel cold? How do I know that it is cold? He starts doubting, in order to try to find one thing that's true. Because Christianity is built on they make a lot of claims. There's a God. Christianity claims there's God. How do you know that? I think there is, but it's hard to prove, right? Or Christianity says that there was a guy named Jesus Christ that lived 2,000 years ago. Yeah, maybe he did, but I don't really know that. I can't go back there and see. So he's trying to doubt everything in order to come up with the one sure thing and rebuild Christianity based on the one sure thing. And so what he comes to is, the one thing I cannot doubt is that I am the one who's doubting. That can't be taken away. I think, therefore I am. Since I'm the one thinking, I know I exist. And in Latin it's called cogito ergo sum. I think, cogito, cognition, ergo, therefore, sum, I am. I think, therefore I am. Aha, I found the one true thing. I think, therefore I am. From that I can rebuild a world of knowledge. Clear enough? You may have heard of it in high school or something like that. It's called the cogito. What he accidentally did was make himself and thought the beginning point of all that's true. Himself, I think, and thought, think, that's the beginning of everything that I know is true. The beginning of certainty is I and thought. So thought ended up as rationalism. Okay, what is another option of the beginning point of all that's true? Anybody? Should be God, actually, shouldn't it? God is really the beginning point of all that's true. So Descartes came up with an alternative for all that's true, namely, I become in God's position. Descartes swaps out God for himself, not out of bad intentions. That's just what he's trying to find, the one true thing. He removes God from human affairs. And the French Enlightenment, because they're trying to get rid of inequality, they start to build all of society on Descartes' cogito. And they start to worship rationalism. This is actually the goddess of reason. The French revolutionaries were worshiping the goddess of reason. So now that there's no God that exists and I am the source of all that's good, the first thing I have to do is get rid of those corrupt clerics who are making everybody miserable. A simple effort and desire for equality, because it had this one linchpin, this one small thing. I'm the origin of truth, not God. Smallest thing. They end up trying to create society based on reason. You can get into the details of it in this short book. And they become the authors of how to make the world correct. The first thing they got to do is get rid of the aristocracy and get rid of the clergy. And this was a common occurrence. They were beheading people everywhere, like in the public square. On your way to shopping, you have to step over the head of a king or a prince or some aristocracy, because they've removed all the elements from religious life that allows the possibility for someone to improve, allow the possibility for someone to repent, to be educated, to change. Now I'm in charge, and it resulted in the reign of terror. I'm flying through this if it seems disjointed. 30 to 40,000 deaths in Paris. The streets flowed like, blood flowed through the streets like rivers. From one bad ideal. From someone who wasn't even badly intended. égalité, liberté, fraternité. One bad idea. What's the one bad idea? That humans are the arbiters of what's true. It can't be. It's a silly idea. It's a silly idea that, like, how did you get to be like that? How did you get to be the arbiter of what's true? It's a bad idea. So if you're intuitive, you will recognize that from the French Revolution, the beginnings of what we see in the woke movement. The woke ideologues are the ones who are deciding who's good, who's bad. Only they've expanded the number of bad people by planting themselves in each of the four areas I described. Right? Remember what they are: gender, race, language and meaning, and social stability. Marxism, here's the Marxist version. What's the inherent ideal? Peace, land, and bread. The French were égalité, liberté, fraternité. The Marxists are peace, land, and bread. Say that's their ideal. You work, you're fed. There's no aristocrat stealing your money, making you poor. You work, you have land. The land is ours collectively. It's not owned by some thief, some lazy capitalist thief. And bread, you're fed. It's the beginning of materialism. There's no spirituality to the human being. You're laborers. We're laborers. But there's an ideal. It is a good ideal. I think it's a good ideal. Peace. Anybody against that? To have some land to take care of and grow your food. That's fair. Food. You work hard. Feed your family. Good. Good. That's the ideal, because all human beings have ideals. I'm not against any of those things. And there's people who are willing to create social injustice. By Marx's reckoning, it's the bourgeoisie. Does people familiar with that term? Bourgeoisie. These are kind of the upper class, the managerial class, the upper class, and the capitalist class. People who weren't working, they were in charge of the factories and the like. So you have to remove the people who are interfering with the ideal. The reason why the workers were not enjoying peace, land, and bread was because of the capitalist class, the bourgeoisie. So they have to be removed. Communism, unlike the French Revolution, accidentally replaced God. Communism hated God, is flat out against God. It's materialist. The nature of reality is matter. That's why your work product is your value. It's not your intrinsic spiritual nature. So in order to implement the ideas, they established these state-controlled entities. The Communist Party of the Russian Federation and the Communist Party of China. Thanks to people ready to die to give people their rights, but only happen to be following a bad idea, namely that matter is the origin of reality, not God. Let's see how that works out for us. Here's the numbers. 65 million to 100 million dead in the 20th century. Killed. Not died of old age. 65 million to over 100 million in just 70 years. Why? Why? Were they trying to do something bad? Is peace, land, and bread, are those bad? We agreed not. Bad idea. Bad idea. What's the bad idea? That the origin of everything, including you, and you, is matter. Matter, not God. That results in that much death and suffering. So from here, I want to move over to the wokeism, which we're suffering from today. The inherent ideal is equity. The social injustices are created by systems. White people, heterosexual people, males, people born anywhere where their ancestors didn't live, a colonial settled colony, but somehow rich people aren't that bad anymore. I don't know why that is. I don't know why they went away as bad. Does anybody know how many billionaires donated to the Harris Company? 83. 83. So somehow being rich is no longer a crime, evidently, for woke people. Soros got a couple of bucks, right? Yeah. His son, a lot of these crazy guys. So anyway, richness went away as being oppressive for some reason, but the rest of these things are bad. So these have to be removed. So far we're not allowed to do mass killing of people, so far. But you do have to be removed somehow or another. And that's what results is cancel culture, censorship culture, and depopulation. Oh, another reason why you're bad is because you use the Earth's resources. That might be another reason why we have to get rid of you. And then it's not enough just to cancel you or take away your X account or debank you, because no matter what we do to you to silence you, you're still using Earth's resources. So like Harari said from the World Economic Forum, the right number of people on Earth is about 2 million, 2 billion. You've heard that, right? Has anybody heard that? Does anybody know what the World Economic Forum is? Have you ever? Yes, some of you? Okay. World Economic Forum are globalists that have the determination to impose the woke agenda. They're Klaus Schwab. One of their chief intellects is, I forget his first name, Harari. They're very big on environmental justice. And basically they think that human beings are, just by being alive, you're a populator. You're depleting the world's resources. So they have calculated that the proper amount of people on Earth is about 2 billion. So at that point, just silencing you will not be enough, I don't think, because you'll still continue to exhaust the Earth's resources. So we're comfortable now, we're in a battle now, but the reason why we do these conferences is to prevent sufficient control of the woke left to be able to start to do you in. Supposing you have enough dissenting ideas that you don't comply with the obligations to produce equity in your life, or you insist on being heterosexual or heteronormative, which makes some people feel bad, then supposing you lose your shopping coupons. You lose your shopping coupons because you have to be corrected from having these bad ideas. Or you lose your gas coupons. We can't afford to allow people like you to have gas in your car. So we're comfortable now. It's an ideological battle now, but in China it's not an ideological battle. It's called social credit scores. And if your opinions are not correct, we can't afford to give you the necessary. Did anybody have a COVID passport, a COVID card, so that you could go to a restaurant? COVID, right?
Yeah, they create it and so forth.
It had to be signed by a government official and things like.
Yeah, carry that.
Yeah. So, supposing, can we just have racists going around unchecked? Maybe they shouldn't get a passport to go allowed to the store, to the supermarket. I don't want racists. I'm going out for eggs. I don't want to run into a racist. He may traumatize me. So this is serious business. It's not, and so it sounds remote or sounds distant, but I tried to show you the roots of these things with Enlightenment and Marxism to show that a single bad idea leads to a degree of totalitarian control over our lives that eventually becomes murderous. Dissenters must be eliminated. You can get a more full command over it through the book. And through our, we have a lot of materials. So the inerrant ideal is equity. That's achieved by DEI legislation, reparations. People know what reparations are. Forced taxation, wealth redistribution, and land redistribution. The open borders is land redistribution. Social injustice, white people, heterosexual people, males, and polluters. The way to remove evil, identity politics, so that you know where you stand in being able to accuse your oppressors. Cancel culture, censorship culture, defund, debank, deplatform, depopulate. This is what wokeism is, based on a single fundamental error, no different than the Enlightenment. What was the Enlightenment fundamental error? The cogito. The origin point of certitude is myself. I think, therefore I am.
No God.
No God. The origin point of certitude, of reality, of truth is myself. Whereas people of faith know for a fact the origin point, even it's just logic. It's not even faith. It's logic. Where the truth is obviously from whoever created this, that's the origin point, not I. And so, single bad idea, the potential of the bad idea. If the eco justice warriors get control of things by controlling you, whether or not you're allowed to have your shopping passport or your gas passport, or whether or not you're allowed out of the 15-minute walk out of your neighbor or something. This is based on a single bad idea. The implementation of ideas by the woke community are these: elections, judiciary, government agencies, educational institutions, corporate organizations, not-profit organizations, media and communications platforms, and community organizations. Through these, you're under attack. Through these. Are you associated with any of these? Almost all of that. Almost all of that. Okay. So here's what I just said. Here's the progression of the left through history. Corrupt clergy, rationalism, reason over God. French Revolution, reign of terror. Barbaric genocide. Marxist revolution. Instead of a corrupt clergy, an exploitive capitalist class. Implementation, remove the bourgeoisie and capitalist by death and barbarity. Wokeism, the perceived social injustice, equity. The woke revolution, surveillance globalism. The implementation, global totalitarianism, global depopulation. This is the trajectory of what we face. Day to day, we know that we don't like teachers transitioning grade school children. We know that we don't like pornography in libraries. We know that we don't like 21 million illegal immigrants, have a significant number of which came out of prisons and insane asylums or rapists and murderers. We know we don't like these things. We know that there's plenty of things we don't like, but we've never hit the point where we can see it clearly in its trajectory. One single bad idea that people are willing to die for. And with the French Revolution, the one single bad idea was reason over God. And with the Marxist Revolution, the one single bad idea was that matter is the origin of creation. Matter creates. It created both man and God doesn't even exist. Matter. That's why your value is labor. In the woke revolution, the single thing, you'll see a progression. First you get rid of God, then you get rid of even human origins, and then in wokeism, you get rid of your own identity. You don't have an origin point. You are just an outgrowth of the phenomenon of disparity, of oppression and victimhood, of oppression and resistance. So that there's no meaning, there's no possibility of conversation, and you don't even have an origin point of your identity. You have no origin point of your identity. I am what I think I am. And the only reason why you insist on calling me a man, even though I'm a girl, is because you are trying to oppress me. I decide what's my identity. I'm a cat, I'm a raccoon. That is the natural progression of each thought that removes the origin of reality. For the French Revolution, they removed the origin of reality. For the Russian Revolution, they removed the origin of human purpose. And for the woke revolution, they removed the origin of yourself, your identity. The only reason why people relate to me as a man is because of social, what is it called? Social forces. Not because how I was born. Okay, so let's look at the progression of the right. I told you the progression of the left. Did it make sense? Was it simple enough? Remove God, replace it with reason, you have the reign of terror. Remove human purpose and replace it with matter, you have the communist genocide. Remove meaning and replace it with system of oppression and resistance, and you have the woke revolution. So the progression of the right is, look at what happens on the issue of the French Revolution side. Corrupt clergy, right? Of the 1700s, right? That was the French Revolution problem, right? I told you, right? Remember? Okay. The French Revolution problem is corrupt clergy. What did they do on the right? Did they remove God, like the cogito? The opposite. They intensified faith, the Reformation. They translated the Bible so anybody could read it. Luther and his 95 Theses protesting the corruption of the clergy. The Gutenberg press so that the Bible could be printed, so that people were released from the control of corrupt clergy. You can learn about that more. But what happened was, on the right, there created an intensification of God and faith. And what was the result of that? What was the result of intensifying God and faith? It created the immigrants from Europe to America and founded the United States of America. And when the Great Britain became too oppressive as a colonizing force, the Americans put all their differences behind them and revolted against the monarchy. And America was born. Why were they even here in America? Why were they even here in America? Because Europe was divided into Christian blocs, and Protestants couldn't worship in Christian, Catholic areas, Catholics couldn't worship in Protestant areas, so they came here. They came to America to worship. That's why they came to America. And so as a result of intensifying faith, instead of ending up with the reign of terror, we ended up with the United States of America. From the small difference, from reacting to the same thing, corrupt clergy. It isn't though the right wing said, oh, we don't really care, so let the people suffer, let them eat, let them eat rocks, I don't care. It's not that they didn't care. Their reaction to the problem was reform. They intensified faith in order to deal with human corruption. Here's the results of the Reformation, the American Revolution. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. That was one of the things French wanted, right? Equality. Endowed by their creator. Why are we equal? Why are we equal? Where does our equality originate from? Anybody? From God. Because you're born. That's where our equality comes from. Without God, there's no possibility of equality. Anybody here not born? Okay, then we're the same. We're the same. Anybody here had a big say in leading up to your birth? Did you kind of help organize it, or? Yeah, you see what I'm saying? We're created. We're all identical. That's the ground of our equality. A single differing idea. And with that, America is born the greatest country in the history of the universe. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Oh, very nice. Endowed by their creator, thusly, with inalienable rights. And our rights include the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, freedom to gather, freedom of the press. All those freedoms come not from anybody but God. Our equality comes from God. Our freedoms come with a firm reliance. This is all in the Declaration of Independence. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. Also in the Declaration of Independence, the laws of nature and nature's God, to which these warriors pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. The small number of people who are willing to die to remove social injustices. If you get it wrong, if you remove God, if you move the origins of what's true, origins of our equality, origins of our rights, what ends up is people appointing themselves to enforce what they believe is equal, what they believe is true, what they believe should be our rights or not. So here's the second step, the progression of the right. At that time, the turn of the 20th century, are the robber barons, the excessively rich capitalists. Correct? Right? We know about this turn in the 19th century, the railroad magnates, the shipping magnates, etc. And they were using capitalism to create an unequal situation. That's what Marx reacted against. So what did Marx do? Remove God, replace it with matter. Tried to create the revolution of the proletariat. Build societies based on materialism, communist revolution, the barbaric elimination of offenders. That's the non-God side. What happened on the American side? They intensified faith, they created Christian unity, and they developed what's called the social gospel at the turn of the century. All the great social justices arose from that. Racial equality arose from that. Women's rights arose from that. We built one nation under God with growing equality, growing rights, growing creativity, and growing prosperity from one single different idea. The Marxist side rejected God and tried to create a society where human beings are judged by their labor, and from there lies our equality. To each according to their needs, from each according to their abilities. On the American side, America became the country of the finest advance of gender equality, of interracial relations. A simple idea, simple ideal. Woke ideology. Remove meaning and meaning and truth, preempt truth. forbid speech, forbid opinion, totalitarian enslavement, and eliminate offenders. This is the agenda of the woke ideology. If we are to follow the same progression as we did Enlightenment, Marxism, WOKEISM, Reformation, Great Awakening, what can we do to prevent the eventual establishment of woke totalitarian control over our lives? It's basically this: two new things, same traditions, same decisions, same way of life as what won twice in a row. The American Revolution won, the French Revolution lost. It ended up ugly. Second time, the American century, the growth of democracy won. Marxism in Russia collapsed and people died. Here we're trying to stop it in its tracks, stop it in its nascent. We're seeing how bad it can be. Fortunately, we voted against it this time, when we have a chance to try to build a culture faithful to the will of the people. On the intensify faith thing, America is now every faith. It's now every faith. At the time of the French American Revolution, it was mostly Christian denominations fighting, right? Yeah. Do you know that? Yeah. But they made allies. The Christians who were fighting in Europe, they made allies of themselves and stood up and liberated ourselves. Now, the global totalitarian woke agenda, who's anti-God or anti-meaning and truth and purpose and even identity, what we need to do is create those same alliances in the same spirit as the founding American revolutionaries did, but with everybody now. With Muslims, with Hindus, with Native American. Anybody of faith are our new allies. Because the simple question is always this: God or no God? God or no God? I happen to believe that Jesus Christ is my Savior. You're a Hindu. I don't really know what you believe, but do you believe that we come from God? Yes. Good enough for me. Good enough for me. Because there's a group that believes in no God, even no meaning to language, no meaning to my identity. I have no origins. You're a Hindu, you believe in God, you're my ally. We have to do, once again, what we did once before. A true American revolution, a final American revolution, an alliance of every believer. This will make us victorious. If we exclude any of our own, oh, you're a Baptist, sorry, we don't really believe in. We exclude any of our own, we will not have the solidarity to stand up to a force as overwhelming and as powerful as woke ideology. That can't even let you say, oh, I'm not a racist. Aha. That means you are. It has nothing to do with what you do or say. It has everything to do with how you're born. If it's that complete in its capacity to remove your rights, we need, if that's the one decision, God is the origin of my identity, the origin of my freedoms, the origin of my hopes and dreams, of the notion, the single idea that made 2 successful victories over the history of leftist barbarism. Then I want that decision one more time, and I want every ally. Well, I don't really like church, or I'm spiritual but not religious. Do you believe your origin comes from a divine origin? Oh, of course. Thank you. Help us stand against this one bad idea, because what's coming down the pike is unimaginable. Unimaginable. We lived through it once. Actually, thank God. Thank God we lived through it once. Remember the luggage stealer who had all the nuclear codes? Remember him? Her? Yeah, what? Remember that guy? well, I forget his name. We've lived through it once. We're living through it now. We just had the, what was it? What's her name? Lincoln Riley, right? Lincoln Riley, what's her name? Yeah, we just had the trial. We're living through it. We saw what it does. It gets bad fast. But by God's grace, a single, simple, factual idea. Who are you? What is your identity? Where are you from? Oh, you're a black guy. Oh, you're a woman. Oh, you're a white woman. No, I'll tell you who I am. I'm created with inalienable rights. That's my identity. Everything else is incidental. That's the stand. That's the victory. And anybody who's just willing to say, I'm created, you're my ally. That's the American Revolution that we're in the middle of now. That's why all the people you see that we just elected, they're all such openly Christian people. They're all such openly religious people. I've never seen it before in the history of American politics, where everybody is faithful. That's because the dark side showed its face too much, and it undermined too thoroughly. So one, the first part of the American Revolution, we're not just harmonizing the Christians to stand up to the British. We're harmonizing the people of faith, of every faith, to stand up to those who would deprive me of my identity. Secondly, the other part of the American Revolution is individual liberty. Was it? All men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. That is our individual identity, certain inalienable rights. That needs protection. That needs a buffer. That needs a home where that independence and liberty is guided and matured. That happens in the family. I can go. I'm going to stop and instead of going on much longer. But basically, the family is a four-directional reality. It's parents and children. This is a unique relationship. It's not equity, by the way. Person who's paying all the bills is the parents. And the person who's who's like usually smarter than their mom and dad is the kids, like that. It's a beautiful blend. That's directional number one. Directional number two, husband and wife, kind of left, right, dead equal. And directional number three, elder, younger. So the family is my buffer. Thank you, American founders, for telling me that I was born by my Creator with certain inalienable rights. But I need some buffer. I need some guidelines. I need some place for that to mature. I need some place to understand what my freedom means, how it should look. I have freedoms. Am I going to do stuff that's going to make my parents miserable? I'm free to. It says there in the Declaration of Independence. It says there in the Constitution, I'm born free with inalienable rights. I'm born equal. They say, Ma, I'm born equal. So does that mean I'm just gonna just do whatever I want and make my mom miserable? I'm not gonna. Or make my sister miserable? Or get caught stealing and then my dad loses his job and my family sinks into poverty, and is that what my freedom means? No, it doesn't mean that. And also, as I am an individual, am I going to be able to withstand every effort to undermine my God-given sovereignty and God-given purpose? No, I need help. I don't only need the natural guidelines of heart that make me not do stupid things, and although I'm free to, The family is a natural home of guidelines. It's a natural home of the maturation of the God-given freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. The other thing is that just as an individual, I can't withstand everything that's going to come against my rights and freedoms. So I have an uncle, and I have a cousin, and I have a brother and a sister. Like I was reading something that there's the moms, what are the mama bears, right, fighting the school boards, right? And then somebody said, where are the brothers that, hey, that's my sister you're talking about. It's like, it's like some big tough guy walk in. And so family is the natural, multi-directional, kind of situational home of our God-given sovereignty and authority and individual rights. It gives us both guide rails, a place of natural maturation, a place to understand the meaning of freedom and liberty, and a place to understand the meaning of my identity, and a place to have a buffer and to protect. And then the next thing after family becomes my clan, my cousins and their family and their family and their family, something like that. You're fairly well protected there, a fairly well universe of opportunity. Oh, did you hear that, Mia moved out to Indiana and she got a job at a really good place. She's an executive. Or how did that happen? Oh, our cousin moved out there and he had a place, and he told me. It's like that. It's the expansion of our opportunity. It isn't me versus the state. It isn't me in isolation. So the left has intersectionality of oppressed peoples. We can have intersectionality of love, intersectionality of families helping families, clans helping clans, like that. And that's a lot of what settlement is. If you look around the room, you already have a lot of family here just from being here today. You need some help, you met them already. Now, that's the intersectionality of the natural expansion of our individual sovereignty and liberties in the context of the God-given structure of things. How did family come to be structured the way it is? How come most families have a mom and a dad and children and brothers? Where did that come from? It's God's deliberate creation. And so that is the bulwark. That is the truth. It's the living truth. It's the living stand against wokeism. It is the living stand against wokeism. So two things, like a new American revolution to ward off the oppression of our people, our country. One, not only the solidarity of Christians who fought off the British, the solidarity of every single believer in America. If you believe you're created, please help me stand against wokeism. Secondly, yes, I understand we're all created with independent sovereignty. How do you know not to use that freedom to be, as we say in New York, like an a-hole, or mess up your family's name or something like that? The family is a soft and natural and beautiful place to become what the founders fought for, individually sovereign. And the more and more my sovereignty is expressed in the beauty of a kind of mature and constructive way, the more and more it's invulnerable. So that's the end of what I have to say today. I hope this afternoon of showing the progression, of showing the single point of error, and showing how that very same point is enough to help us stand. And this can come under the newly elected Trump, Musk, Kennedy, Gabbard administration. come under it, support it, not just imagine that a new administration is going to change everything. We change it. Thanks for being